has a funny way of exposing everything: your discipline, your patience, your blind spots, and your values. And real estate doesn't care about hype, egos, or shortcuts. It rewards consistency. It punishes entitlement, and over time, it quietly changes lives, not just financially, but structurally. Around here, we don't do get rich quick. We don't gatekeep, and we don't pretend money is a taboo topic you're supposed to figure out alone. This podcast exists to normalize real conversations about money, ownership, and building wealth without having to come from it. Today's conversation is about service, transition, and what happens when structure meets opportunity. It's about taking the discipline forged in a military and redirecting it into real estate, investing, and building something that lasts. My guest is Carmello Pronesti of 99 Realty and Property Management. He's a real estate investor, a business owner, and a veteran whose path isn't real estate, wasn't glamorous, but it was very intentional. Very excited to talk to you today, Carmello. Thank you for spending some time with me.
Thank you so much, Dana, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want to dive right in and have you give a brief synopsis of how your career has been, because you've had a really cool transition.
It was quite interesting, actually. So a lot of people don't know this about me, unless you know me. I was in the Coast Guard for 10 years. I did not have a wealthy upbringing. We were not rich as kids. I didn't have real estate knowledge. And in the Coast Guard, there's nobody that kind of guides you financially either. So, um, again, starting off from the beginning in the Coast Guard, had no real idea of how to invest in real estate, what I was going to be doing in my future in real estate either. But I knew at some point I wanted some kind of cash flow. I wanted some kind of investment strategy. We never really knew what it was going to be. We decided to buy our first house in Lowell, Massachusetts in about 2013. And that was our first kind of leap into the real estate industry at all. Right. But we didn't know what we were doing. We were just buying a house because we thought that was the right thing to do. We had
Yeah.
no idea. Right.
Yeah.
Um, we ended up about 6 months later, after finally closing on that, which it was not very difficult, by the way. A lot of people look at buying their first house as some huge leap, very emotional, I would say. Um, but it's really not that big of a deal. I think a lot more people kind of make it bigger than it really is to kind of step in and make that first investment in themselves, really.
Yeah.
Um, so about 6 months later, we were shocked to find out from the Coast Guard that they were sending me to California. So I was in Lowell, Massachusetts. I was stationed in the North End, actually. I was on a cutter. So the boat that I was on would go out for about 2 months at a time. We'd be in for about 2 months and, kind of back and forth. Um, my wife was also pregnant with my son at the time, while we were kind of making that transition, buying the first house. But after buying, 6 months later, Coast Guard's like, hey, guess what? You're going to California. So we had no choice, right? We had this new house. We didn't know what to do. We were like, oh my God, we have to rent. Let me backtrack a little bit because at this time also is when I kind of learned about bigger pockets. And I'm horrible with timelines. So if you guys ever catch me like overlapping times or something like that, I do apologize. I try to remember things as good as I possibly can, but sometimes it gets a little gray.
Right.
Um, Not perfect, right? So before that, I was starting to learn about bigger pockets and what real estate investing was.
Mhm.
We decided before the Coast Guard said, "Oh, it's time to move to California." We decided to try to house hack a little bit. So we had somebody live in the basement for a little while, and that was
Okay.
kind of like our introduction to learning how to rent anything. Right? We've never done it
Mhm.
before. We had no idea what we were in for.
Right.
So we rented our house and it was kind of weird, right? Because we didn't know who this person really was. We didn't know what background checks were. We kind of just threw an ad up. I think it was on Craigslist or some other advertising site. I don't even think we used Zillow back then. Um, but So we found this person. She lived in the basement. One day we went away for like a week or something like that. We probably went to Florida to see family or something, and we came back and it was weird. Like she had like taken over a first floor, and like she was like doing laundry and stuff, and she had like taken over. It was like weird, super intrusive. It was awkward.
Right.
So we put an end to that relatively quickly. And then soon after is when we got the orders to go to California. And we were like, all right, now we got to really start thinking. We did more research into bigger pockets. We kind of went through the little bit of house hacking, which was kind of a wreck for us. And then we started interviewing people. And by then, I think now we're starting to use Zillow. And I think it was called apartments.com. It might have
Mm-hmm.
been called something else. I can't remember,
Hmm.
but it was like a platform where you could put your property up for rent. You can accept payments through this, and it was relatively easy.
Hmm.
Moved to California. We were doing all these interviews for potential tenants, and we finally landed on a family of five. Um, and it was great. Sent us a security deposit. We started making payments through the portal and everything like that. It was great. So that was like our first, like, we're real estate investors because we bought this house and now we're renting it out. We live in California. We did have to rent in California, but whatever, that's kind of what you do. We were only going to be there for a short amount of time.
Right.
Fast forward, we moved back to Clearwater. So now we're in Florida. We're
Okay.
renting first here. We decide now we're going to look for another property, another primary home, because now we're like, oh, we don't really know what to do. We have to buy something because we're just wasting money renting.
Right.
And now we've got a taste of kind of how it is. We're like, oh, we can continue to figure this out. We can continue renting the home. We're making a little bit of cash flow. We're like, oh, this is pretty cool. We're making a couple $100 a month. Um, we didn't know that we should be like holding extra money for repairs and maintenance. So we didn't have a property manager. We had no idea what we were doing. Right.
Right.
So we bought our first new construction home in Palmetto, Florida. We were ecstatic.
Now,
Um,
I'm going to stop you real quick.
yeah,
Your first home, did you buy it with your VA loan?
we did.
Okay.
We
And
did.
so you still have that VA loan. And then when you bought the second one, did you again use a VA loan?
No, actually, the second time we used an FHA loan.
Okay.
Um,
Was there a reason there? Did somebody say you couldn't do the VA
no,
loan again? Or did you not know?
I don't think we knew at that
Okay.
point because again, we were so new. We didn't really know what the heck we were doing. Like we
Right.
didn't have great resources like we do now with all the loan officers and things that we know. We
Yeah.
didn't have you, it
I
was
mean, hey.
It was like the Wild West for us. We had no idea. And the crazy thing is, like all my family, like my uncles, very, very into the real estate industry,
Mhm.
multiple homes, like, and we didn't even think like, hey, maybe we should consult him. Or, my father, when he was young, owned apartments in Jersey and Hoboken and those places, like 40, 60 unit apartment buildings.
Oh,
But
wow.
he was young and dumb at the time. He
Yeah.
sold all those. He just didn't know. He came to Florida, started building restaurants and the kind of the rest is history. But
Mhm.
um but when you're in it, it's like you don't even know or think about what resources are really around you, right?
Right.
When you're brand new. So fast forward, we got a couple of we had our second home now. We ended up selling that one. And now we're kind of getting into the bigger pockets thing. We ended up using the proceeds from the sale of the home in Braden and sorry, Lowell. I keep saying Lowell, but it's Drake, Massachusetts, up north.
Okay.
Um, the tenants like missed rent for 1 month and we freaked out. We are like, it's time to sell, you know. We had no idea again,
Yeah.
So we sold that house and we heard about this thing called a 1031 exchange from Bigger Pockets.
Hmm.
So we did a little research. We found this company out of New Jersey. It's called Madison Exchange. Little shameless plug there, unfortunately. Sorry. They were a great company. So, um, it's great. So we got all the information about how to do the 1031. We were already kind of thinking about selling the house, but we didn't know what to buy next. Luckily, in our little bit of research. And now that I'm in Florida, I think I had just gotten my real estate license. Again, like time overlap is crazy for me. Like so if my timelines are all weird, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I was like working on getting my license or had already gotten it. And I was just in the beginning of real estate, and it was time to buy something else and do the 1031 exchange. We ended up finding a 4 unit in Bradenton, Florida, which we still own today. And it was a mess. The realtor was really good friends with the owners. He didn't
Mm,
want to negotiate. We ended up, luckily enough, we ended up getting to meet the sellers in person and having like an in-person negotiation, which like is really hard to do today. Like,
yeah,
tell me when the last time like you met sellers and buyers together over like
right.
donuts at a coffee shop and like
Usually
let
it's
them,
different.
yeah, let them battle it out, right? We walked away from the table probably 3 times,
Mm,
and each time we kept coming back. Or like we were the ones initiating coming back. So it was as if we were losing. Um but we ended up buying the house for like $50,000 less than what the sale price was or the listing price. We were able to negotiate because we didn't have all of the funds needed even with the 1031.
mhm.
We didn't have all the funds that we needed to get the deal done. So we needed to like work it out with the agent, work it out with the commission, and work out all this stuff. We ended up closing, thank goodness. Again, we still have that property today. Now it cash flows like 4 grand a month. It's fantastic.
Nice, nice, nice. And that
Oh,
is, I'm going to kind of slow you down just a bit so that people know. Number one, you were buying that house specifically as an investment property,
yes.
correct? And this 1031 exchange, very few people really know what a 1031 exchange is. And I'll happily explain. But if you want to
Please.
get the synopsis, you're welcome to.
So it's basically when you know you're going to have to sell a property, but you really don't want to pay the taxes on the sale immediately. You can defer the taxes um, by using what's called a 1031 exchange. And it's basically you're leveling up from single family, in our case, to commercial. I think there's other ways you can do it too. But the way we were doing is we were going from a single family home to to an investment property. So the 1031 exchange was a viable option for us to defer capital gains until the future. So I'm
Right.
sure that even still now, I'm probably not explaining it perfectly. I'm sure you can give a little bit of a better example, but so I'll let you even explain further if you want. But it worked great for us.
Right. And it works great for a lot of investors that do want to defer those capital gains taxes that they would have to pay. Ultimately, the very, very basics is taking an investment property that you have and with the proceeds of that sale, investing that money directly into a new investment property that's of equal or greater value. Ultimately, to obviously defer those capital gains and put yourself into a position to earn more income. They give you a time limit on that. You have to identify a property in a certain time and close within a certain time to kind of keep everything moving smoothly. But that's the very basics. And if anyone wants to learn more, you're welcome to reach out to me and I can definitely get you that info. But I appreciate you just bringing that up because people don't even know about it. So
Yep.
you were still in the military at this point,
Yep.
but you were back here in Florida and you're looking to take that investment property proceeds from up in Massachusetts. It was Massachusetts, right? You said,
Correct. Yeah.
and invest it here into a property in Florida. And thankfully, that property was a multifamily property. So you're able to get multiple tenants in. And how many years has that been? You said you still own that property now.
This now I'm either 16 or 17, so it's almost 10 years, or just about, yeah, it's about 10 years now. Maybe it
Awesome.
might be a little off, maybe 17, 18. I'm not exactly sure. Again, bad timelines. But yeah, it's been a while and we love this dang property.
Yeah.
We just put $60,000 in upgrades into it a few days ago. The project finished. We just resided the entire project.
Hmm.
2 buildings, massive project. But it needed it. So
And were you, since we're on that topic, you said that you started off this property not making a whole lot of money, not cash
yep,
flowing a whole lot, but
correct.
obviously over this time, the last decade, you've been able to, drill down on the mortgage. reducing your balance there
Yep.
and increasing rents potentially over time, as well as
Yes.
the value of the property appreciating. So when
Yep.
you went to do these improvements that you just completed, which congrats on that, were
Thank you.
you able to tap into the equity of the property to do those improvements, or was that part of a fund, part of those rents that you collect, setting that aside? Where did that money come from for you?
So that money came from over the last, few years. Again, like we've grown, right? We've learned property management, we've learned how to develop a real estate brokerage and property management company. Um, but over now, how many years has it? Like I said, it's been about 10 years. It cash flows about $4,000 a month. So yeah, I mean the proceeds from all the cash flow paid for the renovation and ultimately the value increase of the property over time. Um,
Awesome.
we've done other upgrades to the property, like we've totally renovated one of the units like from absolute scratch, um, like ripping up plumbing, ripping out all the walls, replacing AC units with mini splits, really
Mm,
making it so that like it brought it from $750 a month in rent to $1,500 a month in rent on one of the
nice. Yeah.
units.
Yeah.
Each of the other units was not too bad of shape, so we've been able to keep rents at about 11 or $1,000 to $1,100 a month.
Nice.
And then the front, there's a bungalow also. It's like a 3-2, beautiful little bungalow, front single family home, structure of this property. And that is a long-term rental now, but we did have it for Airbnb for a while, and it did pretty successful. Um, but we are just not the people personally that like to manage Airbnbs. So we like to keep it as a long-term, and it rents for 2,500 bucks a month. So we're super lucky.
Nice.
We're very lucky to have this place. But of course, getting to that spot where we are now, it took a lot of education of what to do and when to do it and why.
Right.
Um, and in that big gap, I've learned how to sell real estate. I've learned how to open a property management company. I've learned how to manage people somewhat. You're always learning there. But by doing the right thing and doing right by people, I think that's the best measure and way to success for anybody.
So did you know when you were getting out of the military that immediately you were transitioning to real estate, or was that still a question for you? What was that pivot point for you?
Yeah, so I started learning the real estate thing, like I said, probably in the beginning of the process of it being like buying that 4 unit property.
Mhm.
I'd got licensed. Um, I learned a lot. I worked at KW. I worked at another small boutique brokerage called Map Realty. Um, I learned a lot, right? Learned how to
Mhm.
sell, learned how to do the property management thing. I was kind of developing the plan for exiting the military at some point if it were to ever occur without really knowing, right? So in the last 2 years of the military, had some health issues, ended up getting out, but I was already kind of established. Like I've already had a great client base, great network, developed some property management clients. So when I exited, I had about 20 properties for property management or 20
Nice.
clients. And it was like nothing, right? I was like, this is just it's a couple extra bucks a month. It's great because, at some point these people are going to need to sell or they're going to need to buy more properties. So that was kind of my base for wanting to do the property management thing. And it's just continuing to help people in other ways, right? So now we provide a service that manages people's property and we can also help people invest in more, or if they need to offload, we can help them sell.
Yeah.
So it's like every avenue of real estate that we're constantly learning and learning and learning. So that when that time came, kind of unexpectedly, but we kind of knew at the same time when some certain health issues started to come up in the military,
Yeah.
I had a plan, right? The plan was,
Not a whole lot of people do. I mean, leaving the military, it's
it's true,
sometimes a bit of a shell shock, if you use that term, right?
very true.
Um, so you already had that plan in place, and tell us about the plan.
Yep. So, plan was to start my own real estate brokerage and property management company. So I broke off from the current company that I was with, a small boutique brokerage out of Sarasota. Fantastic people. Love the broker. Love the family. Still in contact with them because in real estate, you also don't want to burn bridges, right? Because you meet the same people on the way up as you
Yeah.
do on the way down. So hopefully I don't have to go down, but I want to bring those same people with me wherever I go.
That's
And that goes for all of us, right?
yeah.
Um, ah, yeah,
So
it's
you've
it's been
got
a blessing.
helped you out here. As far as starting with that broker, that was you as an agent, but
Yes.
transitioning out of being that agent role and actually becoming a broker, you know, was that a difficult transition for you? Which was harder, leaving the military and coming right into real estate, or having the switch of agent over to broker?
It was a hard transition for all of it at the same time, for sure. Because,
Okay.
we broke off from the original company as an agent. I went and got my broker's license because I was like, oh, we can do this. If anybody can do it, I can do it. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Right. Wasn't that easy. That test is hard. Um, Managing people is hard. Property management is hard, especially when it's on your own, because there's a lot of things that you don't think about um in property management, like, monthly reconciliations, for example, is trust accounting, managing clients' expectations, managing tenants' expectations, making sure these homes are properly cared for. And we try to do the best that we possibly can to make all of these homes seem like they're ours, and we take care of them just the same. So it's hard. It's a hard organization. It's a tough industry. Um, but again, if you try to do the right thing at the right times, you try to, again, just try to be the best you possibly you can survive and you can thrive. Today we're at about 125 units under management and 4 agents in the brokerage, and we're looking to continue to grow. And we had a pretty good talk this morning, actually, me, you, and Jojo with accents. So I look forward to talking some more as well.
Yeah, so many amazing changes that you've had in the last decade. I mean, that's when that was about the time you left the military, right? Right
About
around 10 years ago,
Um, no, no, no.
a
I've
little bit
been, like I
farther.
said, so I was learning real estate kind of at the same time while I was in the military. So I got
Okay.
out of the military. It's 2026 now. I think I was fully out 2023,
Oh wow.
transitioning out for like 2 years prior to that.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
were really doing this for much longer,
I was going
having
hard.
that two role. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
People called me crazy for a long time. I spent a lot of time away from family, a lot of time away from my kids. I have an 8 and 11-year-old. Sometimes I say, that's a hard sacrifice sometimes you have to make to create the businesses and do all of the things, right? I did miss a lot. I missed a lot while I was in the military. I missed a lot when I was out. But
right.
now, at some point, I think it's really good to realize that time is your most valuable asset, and spending that with people that you love is the most important thing you can possibly do. So I spend a lot more time with family now.
Absolutely. Now, what would you say was the hardest part of transitioning out of the military? I mean, you obviously were doing these two roles, at the same time for a long time.
Yeah.
But what was the hardest part for you leaving the military?
The hardest part is leaving, and of leaving is the change in dynamic and the camaraderie, right? Because in the military, you're so used to those same exact people every day that you work with day in and day out, and you have like
Mhm,
this bond with them. Like everybody
mhm.
went through boot camp, you feel like everybody is there, that and you can trust everybody, which you can. You can lean on everybody. There's always a support system. There's always somebody there to help. When you get out of the military, there's nobody there to help you. There's no resources, um, or I shouldn't say there's no resources. It's You're not told about everything immediately, and it makes it very, very difficult to just jump out and transition. Because I was like, oh my God, I don't have any friends. What's going on here? I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of networks, I have a lot of, but I don't have like friends that I can really like dive into and lean on. And of
Yeah.
course, luckily there's a lot of people that are still in the military that are in the area, right? That I'm
Mhm.
very good friends with, very close with. So it's very important to have those. But at some point they're gonna move, they're gonna transition, they're gonna transfer stations, they're gonna PCS. Um, so it makes it difficult. There's definitely a mind game that happens. that you have to really get through
Yeah.
in that transition process. But it is doable. My biggest thing that I could tell people is if you are getting out or you think you're getting out, you need to make
Mm,
a plan for what you're going to do day one and even 180 days prior to getting out. Because once you get out, there's nothing left. That's it.
yeah.
Life goes on without you.
Whether you've got blog posts collecting dust, a big idea waiting to be shared, or a team with something to say, Name Creative turns your content into a powerful audio experience. From podcasts and blogcasts to collaborative sharecasts, we help you sound professional, reach more people, and build trust fast. Don't wait. Start your audio journey today at nameincreative.com.
Did you feel the pressure to, immediately replace that structure, that sense of structure? Because obviously your days are pretty regimented in the military, and now you come out, not only is your sphere of influence different and finding your path there, but that day-to-day structure and just that identity that you had in the military. How was your coping with that? What was that like?
Yeah, so also another good thing is I'm a big fan of coaching, right? So I was with Tom Ferry coaching for a long time. Now I'm with Doorgrow coaching for the property management company stuff. Um, Big fan of coaching. I think that's probably the most important thing because you develop a need for routine in the military. And once you get out, you need to keep that routine. You need to schedule things. You still need to, be disciplined and on time. And that's hard when you first, that's probably the hardest thing because you're so used to this structure. You got to be at work at 6 o'clock. You're at muster at 6:15. You're starting your day at 6:30. Like everything is so structured in military.
Right.
Um, so when you go home and you try to make that calendar on Outlook and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do every day, it's hard to stick to it. And you don't have to be that regimented. It's
Mm,
helpful. And if you don't at least try, I think there's a really big chance you can fall out of success. Um, it's tough, man. That's a hard transition. It really was. And it's really almost hard to explain.
I bet. I mean, I can't really say that I've had that kind of structure, regimented structure at
Yeah.
any point in my life. So
Yeah.
when you don't have that, it's easy to kind of, or easier, I should say. I shouldn't say it's totally easy, but it's easier to try things and pivot and make these little changes. But when everything is so structured, and then to
Yeah.
go and say it's all gone,
All
now what
gone.
do I do?
Yep.
A lot of people have a hard time. So, besides finding a coach, is there anything else that you would encourage people to do who are leaving the military? Obviously, they might not be focused on real estate, so they wouldn't have a real estate coach. But is there resources that they have within the military that offer those types of things, or what would be one little tip you could give somebody in regards
Um,
to?
there's educational resources once you get out of the military through the VA. There's a lot of education stuff that you can definitely do. I would say if you're in a position where you have the opportunity to create your own wealth, take the risk, right? Now, I'd say that unless you're in a situation where you don't have a steady income. Like I had an income already before, right?
Right.
I had clients, I had sales happening, um, I had property management clients, so I had like a monthly revenue stream already. I would say if you have something like that because you planned to get out of the military, right?
Right.
Stick with that. Do not be afraid to take a little bit of risk because with risk comes reward, right? But don't be crazy about the risk. Don't just do things because, oh, I'm going to do this because it's a risk. That's a horrible way to do it. There's take calculated risk
Mm,
and weigh whether or not it's going to be worth it for you. That's you can't just look at everybody and say the same thing because
right.
some people are just not sales driven. Some
Right.
people are not performance driven. some people are just not motivated. Some people don't like to make phone calls. Some people don't like to door knock or make advertisements for themselves and do marketing on their own. Like that's a hard thing to do,
Right.
right? But you need to also be able to believe in yourself too, that you can do something that you've never done before and that you can take a risk and potentially, do fantastic with it. So don't be afraid to take a little bit of risk.
I like that. What would you say was the hardest lesson when you were early on in investing? Obviously you had the hard
Yeah.
lesson of that tenant living in the basement, and you found your boundaries as far as, okay, maybe house hacking, unless we have separate doors, isn't going to be for
Yeah.
us. And
Put
then you
folding
also
laundry in the closet.
right.
On your
And then
couch.
you had you found that the short-term rentals weren't really for you. You've obviously done a bunch of different strategies in investing. What was that hardest hit early on, that changed your approach?
The hardest hit early on, probably, um, hmm, there's so many. Like I can go into the regular real estate route, or I can take some stabs at the personal investment strategy stuff. Don't if you're gonna invest in real estate and you're gonna do kind of like we did with the 4 unit, we renovated some units. Don't go crazy expensive with, products. You don't have to buy the most expensive products to do renovations for. It's okay to buy builder grade stuff because it lasts longer than you think sometimes. And
Hmm.
just because it's the cheapest one doesn't mean it's going to die the fastest, right? So be careful on spending when you're renovating units. Don't over, don't over, what's the word I'm looking for here? You
Over
don't splurge.
improve.
Don't over improve, yeah,
Yeah.
because that can get you caught. Because if you over improve, you're going to try to overprice, and if you
Right.
overprice, you're going to be sitting longer. So we kind of made this mistake in 2 ways. So with renovations and also with Airbnb and furniture, right?
Mm.
We bought a lot of furniture for the Airbnb. We thought it was going to make a killing. We're like, oh, it's close to the water. It's downtown Bradenton. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Um, Downtown Bradenton is great, right? Don't get me wrong, but it's not a place I think, right? And some other people their opinion may differ.
Hmm.
It's not the greatest place for us for Airbnb for short-term rentals. It's very, very seasonal, and it's not
Mm.
like a beach. Like Bradenton Beach, Anna Maria Island, Holmes Beach, Siesta Key, Lido Key, great places for Airbnb. You're gonna probably, you'll crush, right? Downtown Bradenton, probably not so much.
Yeah.
So we bought all of this furniture. We thought it was going to make a killing. And once you buy furniture and use it for an Airbnb, selling it is not so easy either. So I ended up
Sure.
selling and giving some furniture away to the tenants that live there and trying to sell some of it, but you don't make a lot of that money back.
Yeah.
So there's that. So don't over improve. And then on the real estate side, transaction wise, be careful with what goes in your contracts because that washer and dryer that was there when the people walk through the first time, and it's not there the day of closing,
Mm.
um, you got to make sure that stuff is on contract. So I've bought a
Yeah.
lot of washers and dryers before, and it drives me nuts every time, I hear of an agent doing that, or I don't make that mistake anymore because once you buy like 2 sets of washer and dryers, you're like, I'm never going to buy those again. Because it's just a waste of money.
Right.
But you at the same time, you're like, oh, I screwed up. I got to make it right by the client and do this.
Yeah.
And so I buy them nice fresh washer and dryers. Um, that's a funny one. And it's not too big of a mistake.
But those are
Um,
good tips. I mean, those are the little things that can cost you money that people don't
yeah.
really talk about. So
And brand
really,
names matter. Brand names matter when you're talking about washer and dryers or refrigerators and stoves and stuff like that,
yeah.
because somebody will try to smooth one over on you and switch out the nice stainless steel refrigerator for a white one, Frigidaire. They will try to do those things and you got to be able to catch it and it's got to be on the contract. So be detailed in writing contracts. We'll go there. Um, other things, right? I've done this and I've made mistakes all over the place. One of the other things was um, foreign FERPTA.
What's
So
that? Say one more time.
FERPTA, it's like I can't remember the exact acronym right now, but it's when you have a foreign owner or somebody who is not from the United States selling
Mhm.
property.
Mhm.
There's a certain amount of money, and if I had my documents, I kind of my schedule kind of got a little jacked up. I'm in a car right now, so I don't have all my information in front of me. But um, when you're dealing with clients that have a FERPTA contract or foreign investor relations contract,
Mhm.
you have to be very mindful of tax withholdings,
Mm.
right? Because there's a certain amount of taxes that are held back if somebody is not a citizen of the US. And I could be wrong about this. This was a couple of years ago, so maybe some things have changed, but I made a mistake where I didn't have a buyer sign a document saying that they acknowledged that they were purchasing property from a foreigner. Um, and ultimately, the title company and the government basically held money back away from the seller for a certain
Mm.
amount of time. And he was upset. He was and rightly so, because I didn't know I messed up, and there
Mm.
was nothing I can really do about it. I just didn't know. It was one of those things where it's like, ignorance doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so I ended up giving this guy a couple $1,000 because the
Mm.
government held it from him, even though at some point he was going to get it back, you
Right.
know. So I bit the bullet and I learned that big mistake. And that's one of the things that we hammer on now. It's like, hey, make sure you know who you're dealing with and you know what documents are going to be needed for each and every transaction.
That's really great.
So
Thank you for sharing that one.
it's a
You
long
know
one.
what? It's good though. It's really good. Um, at what point did you realize that, you wanted, obviously you went into real estate on the broker side, I mean, already having clients and you already had some property management under your belt. At what point did you realize you really wanted to start building out that team? And what was your hurdle? What was a main hurdle that you weren't aware of, that you weren't ready for when you started developing the teams?
Oh, this is an easy one. And this is something that still gets me today, and it's training.
Mm.
Training is a
Mhm.
huge hurdle to get over, because what I have in here, it's really hard to put that out there for other people to know, right?
Right.
Or to give people the experiences that I had, the hard times, the easy times. It's really hard to kind of telepathically give that information to other people. You can't do it. And the
Right.
problem is, unless you're fantastic at making video content and stuff like that, which, I like to say, oh, I'm great at doing that, but I'm really not, right? I'm not the greatest at it. I wish I was better. I wish I could do more, and I wish I had more time. I wish I had 48 hours in a day instead of 24. I think we would all be way more successful that way. Um, but training, yeah, training is the biggest hurdle that still affects me today. And it's making sure that the agents have enough training and they have enough time with me to not make the mistakes that I've made. Because trial by fire is hard sometimes, especially when
Mhm.
you're learning big mistakes.
Yeah. And real estate is one of those industries that a lot of it is trial by fire. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
get out there and do it because no two situations are the same,
Yeah.
So you're constantly learning. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that I've been in this industry for over 20 years and every day I learn something new. And not only is the learning curve just constant, but it's also ever changing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just the rules can change on a dime. So
Yeah.
having somebody get out there, you know, push themselves to really stretch their knowledge and give themselves the mindset that as long as they are transparent and they let clients know, if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find you the answer and not totally fake it till you make it and just throw out answers that you don't have the answer for, really,
That does not work. That does
Yeah,
not
it
work.
does not work in this industry for
Yeah.
sure. It will burn the bridges quickly. So
Yes.
when we talk about property management, you already touched on, having the processes in place and that you really had to learn a lot of that. Was that self-taught, coach taught, a trial by fire? How was a lot of your property management skills developed for yourself?
So it's kind of a mix of all of them. So I learned a lot from the previous brokerage that I was with, the boutique brokerage that I was at, a lot from coaching, and a lot from making mistakes. Um, you have to make mistakes also. Like it's just trying not to make huge mistakes is that's the go-getter right there.
Mhm.
Um, having access to, first of all, the Florida Legal Hotline is fantastic. Having that at your disposal, having things like attorneys that you can contact, and like especially title company attorneys, people that you can contact and just say, hey, I got this issue, what do you think I should do about this, how do you think this should be written? That is, I think, iconic and extremely helpful. And then just having a network of other people that I can reach out to, like the people at the Realtor Association of Sarasota Manatee, they have fantastic resources. I talk to a lot of other brokers, and kind of get their take on things too, because, just like everybody else, I don't know everything still. And I'm sure there's some language in a lease or some kind of contract that I don't use, at some point, and I'll learn it. Unfortunately, I'll probably learn it the hard way you know
Right.
but either way, as long as you do the right thing when those things are found out, we're constantly sending stuff over, and we use a certain attorney to make sure that our lease language is always up to date with Florida law and everything like that. So every single lease is written by the attorney's office that we use. That was something that was not always done as well. Like we had a standard lease that we had written for us, and then we would just use that every time. And
Right.
now it's constantly evolving. So we've learned like, hey, use the attorneys and pay the attorneys to write the leases because you know that the language that they have is up to date and it's
Right.
real, and it's worthy of the 45 or $50 you're going to spend on that lease.
Yeah.
Um
Now, for you have obviously the support of the real estate community already surrounding you. But I know from experience there's a lot of folks out there who really have the self-managed mindset because they don't want to pay an external property management company. So
mhm.
for those folks that do want to self-manage but don't have the resources that you have, I know you've tried various softwares over time. Is there any tip or any software that might help someone um, on the self-managed side that wants to maybe start building out their portfolio, but not necessarily hire an external company, want to start handling them? Maybe they're handy, maybe they have a whole lot of family or friends and trades, and they think that as far as all the improvement stuff goes, they can handle that, but maybe they don't know the operational, you know what I mean, or admin side as well as you do.
That unfortunately has to be something you learn. Um, and there's a plenty of resources out there for people who do self-manage. There's lots of YouTube videos. There's a lot of Bigger Pockets is a huge resource for a lot of people if they're going to self-manage and not want to get a property manager.
Mhm.
Um, but you can also like me, like for example, if somebody calls me and they're like, "Hey, I have two properties or a duplex or something like that, and I want to manage it on my own," you know, I'm always open to talk to people and communicate about those things because I was there.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people don't have that mindset. I'm not sure. But the information is out there, and there's resources. Like if you need a payment platform, apartments.com, right?
Okay.
You can collect payments from there. You can do the same thing from Zillow. I know a lot of people are not going to like that I say that, but because Zillow is such a massive company and they're kind of like trying to take over the real estate game. I
Yeah.
think that's a lot farther than people think. You can use that as a payment platform also. They'll write your leases for you, Zillow. They can prep leases. They can market for you as well. They can kind of it's like one stop shop, right? If you wanted to get a platform, I use and I'm a property manager, right? I use a company called Buildium for our property management software. It's not super expensive. If you're a duplex owner, maybe it's a little overkill for that. I would probably stick to like an apartments.com kind of thing. Um, it used to be called something different, but I cannot remember what it was. That was what apartments.com kind of took over. I think it was rent.com or something. And that was a place where you can see all your properties. You can do the same thing, kind of like Zillow does, where you can market your property. You can collect applications from there. You can do your background checks and your credit checks. You can kind of do everything from there. And then it was also a payment platform, and it was like super cheap if it wasn't free, right? I remember at one point collecting payments was free for a while because I think how they made money was like on the application side. Like they would
Mm-hmm.
have people pay for the application, and then in turn they would allow the owners to use their platform for free money transferring service, right? Because every year you would renew that tenant, and maybe they would have to, or you would not renew and have to get another background, and they would make like 30 or 60 bucks or whatever it was. So I think that's kind of what subsidized that. But there is a ton of resources out there, and I'm one of them. Like if somebody calls me, surprisingly, I do get calls relatively often where people in the military a lot of the time were like, "Hey, I got this house. I don't really know what to do with it. I kind of want to do it on my own." And I hate to say this because a lot of times it does shoot me in the foot because I'm giving people free information, right? And I'm kind of telling them how to do it without the need for me. But that's okay, right? Because some people are going to be like, "Oh, I don't have the time and I don't really want to deal with that. Like I'm moving, I'm PCSing. I don't want to deal with it." Right? So I'd rather
Right.
have you do it, Carmelo.
Yeah,
I'm
for
like, "Yeah,
sure.
it's fine. I'd love to do that for you." But, I also want you to know, like, it's not, you know, it's not impossible for you to do those things on your own either.
I think that you having the really that mindset of there's enough to go around and things can be done on your own if you're willing to do it, and being able to share your knowledge, it definitely is reciprocal. It's going to come back to you. You don't know, like yourself, that person down the road might think, you know what, being a landlord, doing my own property management, not for me. I'm going to go right back to Carmelo because he took care of me. He answered my questions. He was always available for that. And then on the flip side, it might be that they've scaled up too big and now
Yeah,
they're
and they
too big
can't.
for their britches and they want to get some
Yep,
assistance there. And they know that they're cash flowing and they know that they can take that off of their plate and help them scale even further,
yeah,
by supporting themselves. So that's awesome.
yeah.
When you talk to people who are, whether they're new or whether they're longtime investors, what do you think's the biggest myth people have about real estate as a wealth tool?
The biggest myth.
Hmm.
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing is that it's so hard to buy a house, and that, "Oh, I don't have the credit to buy a house. My credit's 550. I can't buy a house." It's like it's always the people who have had jobs for like 10 years and they make plenty of money, but their credit sucks, basically. And they're like, "Oh, there's no way I could buy a house." And I'm like, "You just haven't talked to the right people. That's the problem." And
100%.
it's like when that conversation happens, I'm like, "Look, I've taken people from renting for 1 year, right? When they finally have met me, they rent from us for 1 year. And
Mhm.
then in that year, in the last couple of months, we start having this conversation, and they end up purchasing the property the next year. And it's like they would have never thought with another person or with another company or whatever, they had this big thought that there was no way that it can be done. I'm never going to buy a house, this and that. And it's like, first of all, you need to get all of the negative ideas out of your brain, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because you're never going to get anywhere that way because you're just telling yourself, whatever you tell yourself, that's what's going to happen, right? If you're always
Yes.
negative and you're not going to do this and you can't do this, yeah, that's what's going to happen, right? You speak that to
Mhm.
yourself. But if you say, "I
Yes.
am," be positive about things, "I can do this, I will do this," those are those are polar opposites, and the positivity is really what can get you, and it can make you into a different person, a different investor. It can make you into a homeowner.
Absolutely. I think that uh, so many people, if they hear no once, or they hear I haven't, that credit score isn't sufficient, it's like they give up.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Right.
mind baffling. Like, it'll never happen, and
Yeah.
they just hold on to that when
Yep.
maybe they were 20 points off. Maybe they were literally, like you said, a couple months down the road from being
Yeah.
able to make that dream come true. It's that drive to pick yourself up and
Yep.
keep pushing on is
Yep.
definitely a big myth. That's a good one.
You should
The
actually, because this happened just really recently, actually, with one of our agents, Alicia. Um, you know, the client was in a horrible situation or whatever with credit or finances or something like that, and she was still able to make it happen. And I think, you know, having that kind of person there just to be there with you and say, hey, like, don't worry so much. We can get this done. You know, just stick with me, stick it out. And if this is
Mhm,
something that you really want, it can happen. Just don't lose, faith,
for
and
sure.
don't quit, whatever you do.
And knowing Alicia, she's a hype man.
Yeah, dude.
She's definitely that. She's gonna encourage somebody on their worst day, and they
She
will
is.
make it through for sure. For sure.
Yes.
How has real estate changed your life outside of financially?
I'd say it's hardened me almost because all the crazy things that happen, and all the intricacies of real estate, it's not like a normal job, it's not like a normal hobby. Because I kind of look at this as not only a job, but it's a hobby also. Like, I love this. This is fun.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
it's fun to be able to show people the same game. It's playing Monopoly. Like, it's a blast, right? Um, it's fun. Um, and but the thing is that people sometimes get so discouraged, and it's like, come on, it you have even if you make a huge mistake, you can always come back from it. Especially, like, I talk to people in their 20s or even early 30s, and they're like, oh, I can never do it, and this happened to me, and I lost my first one to a short sale. In this game, it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
the only thing that might limit you is time.
Yeah, right, right.
Be
Because
resilient. I would say resilience is what real estate is given.
that's a good one. What does financial freedom mean to you, Carmelo?
Oh man, financial freedom to me is being able to wake up first of all every day and be in the same place that my family is, wherever we are in the world, right?
That's a good one.
Spending time with family and taking those vacations. And sometimes, like, I'm not super rich, I'm not wealthy, I'm not any of those things. Like, we're normal people. We like to have fun. We like to go places like Morocco. We went there a couple years ago. We're going to be going back soon.
Nice.
Um, Having the ability to do that and be with your family and love doing it.
And how's your definition of success? Has it changed since
Oh,
now compared to when you first left the military?
oh yeah.
Or
I,
what's it
I
mean?
thought I thought I needed $1 million. I thought I needed $5 million to be happy. That's not what you need. And it changes for each and every individual. I think this is definitely a personal thought.
Mhm.
You need to just find out what that number is that makes you live comfortably and makes you live happy and makes you, you don't need the Boston Whaler. You don't need the Bugatti. Like, stop looking at social media. You don't need all these things. Like, that stuff is not going to make you happy. If anything, it's going to make you worse. Um, you know, find out what that number is that makes you happy so that you can do the things that you want to do on a day-to-day basis and work to get there, And if that means $5,000 a month, if that means $10,000 a month, if that means $2,500 a month. It's totally personal. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. And it doesn't matter what anybody else has either. Don't chase people. Don't go, keeping up with the Joneses. Me and my wife, we like fancy coffee, so we got the fancy coffee machine. We like that. That's what we do, right? We like to wake up in the morning, have a nice hot cup of coffee out of our little espresso machine. That's what we like.
There you go.
We're
It's
easy.
the little things. It's the little things, right?
It's that nice cup of coffee first thing in the morning that keeps us going.
Right. If you had to start over tomorrow, what would you do first?
Do I have my real estate license still?
No, you starting it all over.
Man, if I'm starting all over, first I'm doing a service business first. I'm doing lawns, I'm doing cleaning, opening a little cleaning company, stuff that you don't need a lot of money for,
Yeah.
because a lot of people discount the fact that, hey, like these little acts of service that are required on a day-to-day basis, such as lawn care or cleaning, maid service, stuff like that. I think that's the hidden gem that people don't know. And that's the way to really make a little coin for yourself.
There you go. I
Start
like
there.
that.
Don't be afraid, be humble.
There you go. That's good. This is a good conversation, Carmello. I like it. I really appreciate you spending the time with me. It was a total real conversation about your journey. I mean, you've worn a lot of hats and have taken a lot of changes and really just keep snowballing it and really just getting better and better. So I'm excited to, continue watching you on your journey. You can definitely show that it's not about overnight success or flashy deals. It's just about structure and
Yep.
patience and choosing your own destiny and
Yes.
really choosing ownership of yourself and what you really want. So I think that your story's a reminder that real estate isn't just about properties. It's about, building your identity and, creating leverage and just continuing on, picking yourself back up every time that you get knocked down, learning from it and keep rolling. So I hope that if anybody takes anything from the conversation that we had today, that they really start thinking about your future, pick yourself a path, keep going on it, no matter what.
Be consistent.
That it's consistency and just keep pushing. Because wealth is definitely not something you just happen into. It's something that you build over time. So
I agree.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dena.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry to cut you off. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. I love this. This is great.
Always a pleasure. Look forward to the next time. And this has been another episode of Invest in You. We will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.
See you guys later.